remember all this fear that I had to push down into my stomach because it didn't have any place there on the edge. I remember saying, right, you're good to go, and I counted. Ready, set, and on the set I knelt down and then pushed off into a big arch and away from the object, and pretty much the parachute started opening up pretty quickly afterwards. And I just screamed the expletive. It was just so, it's almost sensory overload, just the looking down and seeing the ground just rushing up towards you. It was mad. And then the relief as the parachute opened and we landed it into a big cabbage field, and just exhilaration.
Return for grace. It's a beautiful day. Sky falls, you feel like it's a beautiful day.
Essentially, I got into skydiving first before I got into base jumping, so sort of a logical progression, or illogical progression, which way you look at it. Did about 4 years of skydiving, had about 200 odd skydives. And a friend of mine noticed this advert on the canteen saying, yeah, come to learn to base in France. We didn't really know each other too well at the time. And he said to me, do you want to go and do it? And I said, and for ages I said, no, base is lunacy, it's mad, I don't want to do it. I guess I didn't understand that. But this time now, it was at the point in my skydiving, I thought, yeah, no, I'm interested, let's go and find out about it. Generally, base jumping is done from much lower altitude. Skydives are typically taken from 3,500 feet up to 13,500 feet. Most base jumps happen below 1,000 feet. Base is an acronym of 4 letters. B is for building. A is in for antenna, which could be pylons, radio masts, TV towers, that sort of thing. Basically, it's a bit of metal structure where the air can go, the wind can come through the object. S is for span, which is typically bridges, and E is for earth, which could be cliffs, generally cliffs. When I'm climbing an object or walking up to an object, my feelings are I'm running through what I've done in my packing, and mentally am I aware, physically am I okay to do this jump, assessing the conditions. So I'm not really feeling too much. As I actually start climbing, I get a bit more apprehensive. Should I be doing this? You know, is this going to be my last base jump? When am I going to give it up? And then I get to the top, I get quite scared and thinking, oh, this is too much. Am I really enjoying this anymore? What's my reason for doing that? But then I make the decision to jump, and it's the decision to jump that was scary. Once I've decided to jump, it's not scary anymore. It's still nerve-wracking, but I wouldn't say it's fearful, because if you have fear on the edge, it really isn't any place, it hasn't got any purpose. It's only going to make you more tense and more likely to have an accident. After I've pushed off from an edge of a base jump.
Ready, set, go!
Time seems to slow up, like double. It's like a cartoon time. It's not a real time. I'm aware of the wind speed picking up in my ears as I'm falling faster and faster. You can see the ground zooming up towards me. It's very visually and auditory exciting. But I get a sense of calm and excitement at the same time. And sometimes I can almost watch myself remotely. I can see myself falling down by the side of the object. That's quite bizarre. I've got a couple of friends I jump with a lot, and I've got a few other friends I jump with occasionally. And then when we're on sort of, say somewhere like Norway, there's a lot of people who gather because there's a legal site there. It's important to trust your fellow base jumpers you're jumping with for support in terms of if having the right skills and knowledge to be able to do a given site. It's kind of like a sounding board, but it's a support. It's an emotional support.
Good to go? Yeah, let's go.
But it's much tougher to stand on an edge alone and jump than if you've got your friend right nearby.
Blue skies, black dip.
Some degrees of it is illegal, but that isn't part of what really attracts me. It is the freedom and the control that I have over the risk factors that are there. I decide an object, if I can jump from it, jump off it, if it's safe to do so, what the hazards are associated with it. I put the conditions on when I jump and if I jump it. I pack my parachute by myself, and it's just me, the object, and parachute, and conditions on the day. And there's not many things in modern society you can say you have total control over. There's usually some body or some organisation or other people that you have to rely on to say it's okay for you to do that. But there isn't any guidelines, there isn't any rules. You make your own rules, and in that way you can evaluate the risks for yourself. And then there is a lot of fear as well, and when you push through the fear, it gives you a massive sense of freedom.
Ready, set, go.
I perceive myself a little bit as a free spirit, and that's I want to explore. I've been, I'm born into this part of the world at this time. I want to see what's out there that has some meaning to me and what experiences there are for me. I wouldn't say I was a radical or anything. I'm just enjoying experiencing what I do. I think it takes guts to jump off anything, jump out of a plane, and that's not being macho or whatever. It's just that you have to be comfortable with the outcome, the potential outcome. But I wouldn't say I don't view it as macho. I just view it as something I need to do to experience a whole and worthwhile life.
Ready, set, go.
I would say that I have been addicted to adrenaline in the past, and that felt the need to do different things in skydiving and in base jumping, and it meant there was a pull for me to try a lower jump or try a more extreme object. But I've been through that, and I've seen some of the risks of doing that, and I guess I've done a big part of what I wanted to do from base jumping. So now I'm not looking for harder and more riskier jumps anymore. I know the jumps I enjoy doing and why I do them, and they're the ones I'm pretty much staying with. I think as you get older as well, the level of risk that you're willing to entertain gets less. I had an accident after my sixth jump, where I wasn't really prepared mentally to do the jump I did. I jumped from a cliff. I got a bad body position, and the canopy opened 180 degrees and flew back into the cliff. I was aware of what was happening, couldn't control the canopy quickly enough, kicked away from the cliff face. Luckily, the parachute caught on an upper ledge and I landed on a lower ledge. I had a cut on my leg of about 2 inches, but I was really lucky and very grateful that I got through that experience. I didn't base jump for some 3 months after that, and I really questioned a lot about the reasons why I was base jumping, what it meant to me. I'm not afraid of death, because my personal viewpoint is that when your ticket's up, it's preordained. So as long as you don't take the piss and really push the factors, you're going to be okay. As long as you don't get complacent. I think complacency kills a lot of people in a whole different set of arenas. I don't figure it is a gamble. I'm actually quite a cautious person. You couldn't keep doing a lot of base jumps, all different varieties, if you weren't naturally cautious. A lot of people may think they were mavericks, but they're seeing it at an end point. They're seeing like, oh God, this jumps off buildings, he must be mad. But they don't know that I've had 9 years experience skydiving, 4 years base jumping. I've developed the skills and the awareness and the knowledge needed to survive and to accurately assess the risks on a given jump. My job is a chemist. I used to work in the lab making chemicals. Now I'm in a sort of outsourcing role, which is a lot more desk-based. The relationship between my job and base jumping It's a fairly simple one for me. They're like different facets of my character. For ages I wondered if are this extreme person or this more normal person that goes to work and does an average job, or am I this sort of guy that lives on the edge? But for ages that was a duality that I wasn't comfortable with. I thought I was two people, but now I'm comfortable that they are both an important part of me. I'm as happy catching up with my brother and his kids as to jumping off a pylon or doing some work or socialising with a friend. It's the mixture that's important to me. They're all different aspects of me. I have jumped before work in the past, and that's quite a special feeling, because I don't want to use the word smugness, but there's a kind of, you just guys do not know what I've done this morning. It was really intense, really extreme, and you're talking to me about some boring side issue at work, and I'm still buzzed up with this thing I've done this morning. I'll be less comfortable with my bosses knowing that I base jump, because they would probably find it difficult to understand why I was doing it, and may appear to them that it was an acceptable risk, and that I may break something or hurt myself in such a way that would stop me from doing the job, and they may just assume me as a wild card that they couldn't trust because I'm such a risk taker. A lot of fear and ignorance, I guess. Most of my friends and a few work colleagues know about my base jumping. My brother and sister do, but my mum and dad don't. I haven't told them that. They know I skydive, but they don't know I base jump. My dad's a big worrier, and I just don't want to put that pressure on him. He wouldn't understand it, and he certainly wouldn't agree with it. I might tell him once I've given up. If I had a family, I wouldn't base jump. I would carry on skydiving. To me, I find that as an acceptable risk, but base jumping with a family, to me, is an acceptable risk. It is inherently more dangerous. The chances of dying, I would say, are higher than skydiving, definitely, but the chance of injury is greater, so you may not be able to work for a while or something.
For England. Ready, set, go!
At the time I started base jumping, I would say there's quite a few things in my life that weren't in my control, and I wasn't happy with that situation. Base jumping gave me a confidence in that I could do something, I could control it, I could control the outcome, and I could enjoy the experience, the planning, the organisation, and everything. Part of the human condition, essential human condition, is risk. Society wouldn't be where we were today if we didn't accept part of risk. And the society we now live in, things about danger try to be minimised. Car driving, the health and safety executive, trying to make it a safe and sort of conditioned life that we live in. It's not really living. There's no sort of sense of freedom or pioneering skills. And I needed to explore that freedom. I also needed to explore the comfort zone that I was happy with, the sort of level of risk I was willing to participate in. And base jumping gave me that freedom. Some understanding of Buddhism and what it means, and part of that is about living in the now. So much of society is we're thinking about the next thing, or we're always in a hurry. Base jumping is really about living in that now time. It's a sense of nothing outside this matters. I'm totally focused on this jump, this thing I'm doing, and it really gives you a total experience of living in a way that a few other things can do for me.